Kowloon Walled City was once the most densely populated place on Earth. 33,000 people lived on just 2.6 hectares, an area smaller than many city blocks. It stood in the heart of Hong Kong, yet operated in a legal gray zone, a place built upward without formal planning, a self-constructed, self-regulated vertical labyrinth. To many outside, it became a symbol of disorder. To those inside, it was simply a home. And in 1994, the entire city was demolished. If you walked into the walled city during its final decades, the first thing you would notice was the density. Corridors were extremely narrow, some less than 2 meters wide. Pipes and electrical cables formed a dense overhead network, installed informally over generations. Lower levels received almost no natural light, and fluorescent lamps lit most passageways. Inside, you would hear the sounds of daily life: small factories, food stalls, radios playing Cantonese pop, metal workshops, and families moving through shared spaces. The buildings rose up to 14 stories, connected by bridges, staircases, and improvised extensions built by residents. From the outside, it looked chaotic. Inside, it functioned through routine, familiarity, and community networks shaped over time. This density wasn't accidental. It was a response to necessity. Kowloon Walled City began as a military outpost during the Song dynasty. Later, in the 1800s, the Qing government fortified it with stone walls to monitor British influence after Hong Kong Island was ceded. In 1898, when Britain leased the new territories, the walled city was deliberately excluded. China retained nominal rights, Britain did not administer it, and for decades, neither side governed it. By the early 20th century, the population was small. But after World War II, refugees fleeing civil war in mainland China arrived in Hong Kong with few housing options. Many settled inside the walled city. They built upward, adding floors, then adding more, until the structures reached the height limit imposed by Kai Tak Airport's flight path. The result was a densely interconnected block of buildings, with improvised infrastructure and self-organized services. Life inside the walled city was practical and community-driven. Many apartments were small, often around 20 to 30 square meters, and housed multiple generations. Residents operated hundreds of small businesses: noodle makers, metal workshops, food stalls, hair salons, and unregistered medical and dental clinics. These businesses thrived because the walled city offered low rent and minimal interference. Informal networks replaced formal systems. Neighbors relied on each other for services, childcare, repairs, and daily support. Despite its reputation, by the 1980s, many residents described it as a stable, tightly knit environment. Social ties were strong. People shared resources and helped each other manage the challenges of dense living. The triads were active in the 1950s and 1960s, operating gambling and drug venues. But extensive police operations in the 1970s significantly reduced their presence, and by the early 1980s, crime levels had dropped. Daily life inside the walled city was shaped less by criminal activity and more by proximity, routine, and resilience. Last year, I visited the site where the walled city once stood. Today, it is a public park, quiet, orderly, with ponds, pavilions, and preserved fragments of the original foundations. Nothing remains of the 14-story structures that once filled the sky. But the atmosphere feels different from other parks in Hong Kong. It's subtle, but there is a sense of compressed history in the space, a feeling that thousands of lives once unfolded here in ways that no longer exist. That contrast between what was and what remains is difficult to ignore. By the mid-1980s, the walled city's infrastructure showed its age. Electrical wiring was improvised and unsafe. Old pipes leaked. Fire hazards were constant, and the extreme density no longer aligned with Hong Kong's broader development. In 1987, the government announced that the walled city would be cleared. Residents were offered compensation, which many accepted. Others resisted, not because they opposed redevelopment, but because leaving meant losing the only environment they had ever known. Between 1991 and 1992, the last residents relocated. In March 1993, demolition began. Crews dismantled the walled city piece by piece, removing structures that had been layered and modified for decades. By 1994, the skyline was clear. Kowloon Walled City Park opened in 1995, designed in the style of a traditional Chinese garden. Some historical elements were preserved: the Yamen building, remnants of the South Gate, stone markers, and several wells. Visitors walk through, reading plaques and imagining the past. But the real city, the noise, the warmth, the human closeness, exists only in photographs and the memories of former residents. Many say they don't miss the cramped rooms or infrastructure problems. What they miss is the community, the shared rhythms of life, the familiarity, the neighbors they saw every day. Kowloon Walled City existed in a unique moment of Hong Kong's history. It is gone now, but its legacy remains. A reminder of how people adapt, survive, and build lives, even in the most unconventional conditions. In recent years, interest in the Kowloon Walled City has grown again. In 2024, the film Twilight of the Warriors, Walled In, brought the city back into global conversation, recreating its narrow corridors and improvised architecture with striking detail. And in Hong Kong, new exhibitions dedicated to the walled city have begun drawing large crowds, showing original photographs, diagrams, and immersive installations that help visitors understand what daily life inside really felt like. These modern interpretations don't replace the real Kowloon Walled City, but they show us something important. The memory of this place continues to shape Hong Kong's imagination, long after the concrete was cleared away. This is part of a series on the hidden histories of Asia. If you want to follow the next chapter, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, which aspect of Hong Kong's past should I uncover next?